Welcome to the Dog Nerd Show, where we geek out over our best friends. I'm Megan.
And I'm Michael, and this is a show about all things dog.
Hey, everybody. We are back with part 2 of the Belgian Malinois, and we talked to David about his time in the Army with Baggie and the training that they went through, and just...
Fascinating story.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. So if you are like us and you not only geek out over dogs, but you geek out over dogs with jobs, tune in because there are some really interesting stories about David and Baggie's time in the military.
And don't forget to subscribe. Click that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. If you're listening on our podcast, please drop us a line. We certainly appreciate that. Well, without further ado, on to the interview.
Let's go into that. This
Yes.
is like a perfect segue into how you came about meeting Baggie, working with him, and you know, keeping him forever and ever.
Cool.
So originally I was in the Army within the 75th Ranger Regiment up at 2nd Battalion in Washington. So at the time I was looking for something new to do. And I like dogs. I had dogs growing up. I had never dreamed of being a dog handler, and at the time, that wasn't talked about. It was, I guess, classified, for lack of a better term. It was a separate program that was just kind of under the table. And I had talked to another dog handler about it. They told me about it. I said, that sounds pretty cool. I'll do it. So went over there to the canine section. They assess you as a person first to make sure that you can be a dog handler, because it takes a certain personality and drive, work ethic, stuff like that. You have to be a responsible person, obviously, since you're not just holding equipment now, it's a life. And you have to know how and when to use it, because the job can be dangerous, and it's not a tool, even though you can use him. He's still a life.
Yeah.
So anyway, they assess you. So anyway, I went to the training, and there is when they pair you with a dog, and they do that based on your personality. And when they select these dogs, they base it on what they see this dog doing and how its personality, as much as you can tell in an hour worth of assessing him.
Yeah.
And then they try and match you up. And if they need to make changes, they will. So I get Baggie. Instant bond, just like you would with any normal dog as a dog lover. And then we go through a few days of training. Another handler wasn't doing so hot with his. So we switched, because I guess they thought that I could handle this dog, which was fine. I did not want to switch, and neither did Baggie. And I remember looking at him across the field, and he just gave me this look like, what did I do? Like, please take me back. I'm like, it's not me, buddy. Like, I'm sorry. And that started what will end up being the reason why he got retired out to me.
Okay.
So, we go through all this training. Like I said before, it really opened my eyes, ended up becoming a detection dog trainer, or getting certified in it. And at a necessity, because when you're by yourself away from the trainer, which happens a lot, you have to know what you're doing with him when you're training with him, because you're setting up your own problems, and you have to know how to train him.
Okay.
I could get into the weeds with that, but I guess the point of this story was to tell you how he got retired to me. So he and I worked together for 3 years, and then Daisy was born, so I decided to get out so I could be home for my daughter.
Can I stop you there? So when you guys locked eyes across the field and he looked at you pleadingly saying, what happened? How did that switch?
Oh, I skipped over that. I'm sorry.
That's
yes.
okay.
So in and up, I spoke to the guy heading up the training, and I spoke with our trainer, and I told him, like, hey, I want my dog back. Like, I don't like this. Basically, I just complained. I complained enough. There was nothing wrong with this dog, but I complained enough where I got my dog back because I had a bond with him.
Yeah.
One thing about me that I've learned is I don't like change. So Baggie's my dog. He will be my dog. So anyway, I'm sorry. So fast forward.
Yeah, so that's how you got paired back with him.
Yeah, that's how I got him back. So if we fast forwarded to the end, I got out of the Army and Baggie stayed there. Well, from what I understand, he quit working, period.
Wow.
He stopped
Wow.
eating, he stopped working, and he was kind of already like I could tell on our last deployment, it took a lot for me to get him to work, like to get him to do what I want him to do, but which before he was,
He
you
was
know, he was kind of
reliable.
over it.
So that
Well,
was
very.
3 years of you guys working together in the field? Okay.
Yes.
And did you say he stopped eating as well?
Yes, he stopped eating.
Wow.
I'm not a dog psychologist, but I attribute that to being depressed. I
Yeah.
assume that's what it was.
Yeah.
He got like that one other time before. That's actually how he got hooked on beef jerky. He wouldn't eat. I wasn't around, and some of the guys, they weren't trainers or handlers. They were trying to get him to eat, so they fed him beef jerky and got him hooked on that, which is a whole nother story. But now, like, he'll dig through the trash to find beef jerky.
And he's like, "Oh, it's just a wrapper."
Yeah. So actually, remind me that we'll go. There's a funny story with that.
Okay.
So he quit eating, and they took him down to headquarters to be not a test dog, but a dog that you would give to a new handler so he doesn't ruin his dog
Okay.
because he's no longer working. So he gets to make all the mistakes with this guy.
Mhm.
Well, they sent him down there. He started to eat again because one of my buddies, a fellow handler, went down there as a trainer, and Baggie knew him, so I guess he got him to eat. He ended up blowing up like a balloon. The dog was like this wide,
Oh
and
my
Baggie's normally a slender, fit dog.
Yeah.
Right.
Looked like a little sausage.
Oh.
So he started eating again, but he quit. He was no longer useful to them to even train with, mainly because he was just enormous. So
he became fat and lazy. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. So my buddy calls me and tells me like, "Hey, they're gonna retire him. Do you want him? Like, he's not gonna be worth anything to a police department, which is normally what happens. Do you want him?" I'm like, "Of course I do." Because at the time they wouldn't retire him out to you. It would just go to a police department. There was a big mishap that I can't talk about, but it wasn't with me. It was with somebody before me. And they stopped doing that. Anyway, I was the first test bed for dogs from regiment getting retired out to their handler,
Wow.
which is great because other guys got their dogs after that. And Baggie's a perfect dog for that kind of test bed because he is a more calm and docile Malinois.
Okay.
Most Malinois aren't like him.
Okay.
And as energetic as he once was, again, like he's 13. Most don't live that long, and that's mainly because he's asleep right now. He's conserving all of his energy, which is great. So anyway, he got retired out to me, and the retirement process is basically you just want to make sure that the dog isn't going to hurt anyone. Is their temperament's good. It's basically a temperament check, and they run that test, and then they give me the paperwork. I have to sign a bunch of stuff, and basically assuming all responsibility.
Okay.
But yeah, now he's mine now.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic. That's a great. So tell us about we were talking about beef jerky, and you said there was a wrapper. Okay, so let's hear this story.
So the beef jerky story, or how I know that Baggie is addicted to beef jerky, because so what they teach you is that you just feed him dog food, and you only feed him. If you change up the time of day, that's fine, but stick to consistencies, because what you don't want is for them to be food driven. Our dogs were ball driven. If they are food driven, then you run into the problem of them looking for food when they're supposed to be working. And that works in some cases. Like there are people who track, like when you're teaching, like a big thing in Schutzen, when they teach dogs to track, they want their nose to the ground, so they put treats on the ground every so often, and the dog follows it perfectly like that. It's for a look mostly. So that's okay there, but when you're trying to get the dog to look for people or for explosives or something like that, you don't want him looking for food.
Yeah.
And
Right.
those two normally don't pair well. So anyway, he got hooked on beef jerky. Well, one night I had him working. I had him on a leash, and he starts pulling me hard, which I'm like, oh great, he's in odor. It's the same thing he's always done when he's in odor, which he was, just not for what I told him to look for. He drags me into this, basically a meat locker. They had the meat hanging from the ceiling, and he's like jumping up, and I look up because I'm looking for, like, looking around the room. I'm looking up. I'm like, what is up there? It's a bunch of meat hanging from the ceiling. He's like dangling
Oh
from one of
my
these pieces.
God. Wait, so
Aggie,
you
you gotta
guys
get to
were
work,
you
man.
guys were working? Like this
Yes.
wasn't after he was retired. Like you were on a
No, this
mission to
was,
find
yeah.
something else.
Yep. And he
Uh,
found it. He found what he wanted to find.
yeah. Well, that's a great example of that whole food motivation and why they're working dogs like him shouldn't be trained with food because yeah, if you're going to look for a missing person or like you said, explosives, and he's like, well, there's a bunch of meat here.
Yeah, but if you're in the woods and you're looking for beef jerky, there you go.
Back to surveying the Appalachian
Find a little
Trail.
hiker cache somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So yeah, so your guys, even though you were away and they thought they were doing a good thing by feeding him, because hey, at least he's eating beef jerky, may not have been such a good.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, food can work for training, but the important thing is consistency with training, and well, training to begin with, right? So if you're a dog owner or you want to own a Malinois, train
Mm-hmm.
train with the dog preferably. But if you're still on the fence, maybe just attend a training course. Maybe if you can find one where they can give you a dog, maybe borrow a friend's dog, something like that. Maybe babysit a Malinois
Yeah,
for a
there
while.
you go.
Yeah.
And then see if this really fits. It's
Well,
like test driving a car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a great point because before we got our dogs, we went and met, border terriers to see did we even like this breed because, we weren't sure. And I think that's probably the best way to really make sure. And then, like you said, babysit. That'll give you the real deal. You'll see all the fur on your clothes and how many you'll be exhausted from all the running you had to do with the dog. So that's a great point.
Absolutely.
And tune into the Dog Nerd Show where we tell you about Belgian Malinois.
Yeah, so you just tune in here and then you can learn all this great
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
So he, but I was thinking as you were saying that, the food, like right now I'm getting hungry. If I were a dog and I was getting hungry when I was out supposed to be on a mission, if I'm trained with food, then that's, you're not going to be focused on what you're supposed to be focused on. Am I making sense?
Yes, and that's what I said, like with the training, because basically they get rewarded with the food when they accomplish their task.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're hungry, that's great.
Yeah.
It means that they work harder. But I didn't train Baggie that way,
Yeah.
and so that's where the consistency goes off. Now, how, like if it was a long operation and we were stuck out over an extended period of time,
Mm-hmm.
I would carry his food. At the time, there weren't vests where he could carry his own food.
Mm-hmm.
If that were the case, then I definitely would have had him carry his own stuff.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case then. I just carried extra food for him, extra water.
Are there any times when you were out working with Baggie and it ended up taking longer, whatever mission you were doing took longer than you expected? And because you said you carried his food and enough water for him. So how much did you carry and how did you figure that out?
Yes, that has happened. Normally, plans go everything goes according to plan, right? There are times where things fall apart. And in this case, it did. It was actually a very ugly circumstance. But long story short, we got stuck out longer than we were supposed to without food or water. Well, because everybody brings like a snack or something like that, and enough water to get you through the operation.
Okay.
Well, we're out way past that, and in the heat of the day now, and now it's getting hot. We don't have any water, no food.
Mm.
I had a med kit with a small little saline pack. And one really cool thing that you can do, I wouldn't recommend this for people who haven't been trained to do it, by the way. But one thing you can do is a subcutaneous fluid insert.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, you just take an IV, and instead of putting it in a vein, you pull the meaty part of the fat up,
Hmm.
and you insert it that way,
Mhm.
I
and it
remember.
absorbs slower into their body.
Yeah, I remember when Finley had to have that, and there was this lump right under his hide. Yeah.
Yep.
So
If
again,
I knew it was gonna be a crazy night, I would do that ahead of time.
oh yeah, that's a good
So
point.
yeah, you just put it right behind their shoulder blades,
Hmm.
and you could do it back by their hips, not in the hip, but
Yeah.
in the fat. Um, but yeah, so I ended up doing that and then drinking a little bit that was left. For the record, I don't recommend doing that. It's horrible. But I was in a pinch.
When
Either
you
that or my
need to do,
urine. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I just did that. And so, funny story, we're in an orchard. And so after a while, like I normally wouldn't, but
Like an
after a while,
apple
I was like,
orchard.
hey, I'm sorry, yes, an apple orchard.
Okay.
And we were using it as shade. I'm like, we could eat these.
Yeah.
Like again, normally I wouldn't, but again, in a pinch. All right, yeah.
You're gonna get
I'll eat
you're gonna get nutrients and some water from an apple.
Yep. Yeah, I was more concerned about like, I don't know, some weird parasite or something, but
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
but again, whatever. So that's what I was thinking. Some water. There wasn't much, but then again, this is a drier climate,
Mm-hmm.
so they were kind of dryish apples. They tasted really good. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, it's whatever. So I ate a few of them, not to get too bloated and have my body start sucking water from other places just to digest. But I gave some to Baggie. That was it for him. So I told you guys the beef jerky story where
Yeah.
Right.
now jerky. Same thing with apples.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have apples in our house. We have to keep them up where he can't get to them because it's out of control.
Really?
That's nuts.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like he's
The
like,
kids are eating an apple, he'll take it out of their hands and eat it. Like it's
I was gonna ask
and all
that.
from that one day.
Oh,
It's like he got
that's
introduced to human food and he's
Yeah.
like, this, what have I been missing my whole
Like
life?
you guys eat beef jerky and apples? What am
Yeah.
I eating?
Yeah.
funny. Yeah. That's amazing. That's funny.
And I was just telling Mike he's made of rubber. I swear he is.
Yeah. Could you tell one of those stories? Could you tell one of those stories about the rubber?
So I guess the most PG one would be that we were in charge of catching the people who ran away. That was just our job. And there was this one mission where a guy took off and he took off up this mountain. Well, we were in a helicopter, so they took us up to go intercept, basically. And on, I'm trying to keep it in the grounds that I'm allowed to talk about. But
Yeah.
basically, when they inserted us in, I didn't have the equipment that I needed because we don't normally do that.
You weren't
We
planning
normally
on
just
this.
we get set down somewhere. I run after him. There's a lot of running involved, by the way. Like no matter where you go. As I'm talking about, I'm like, I did a lot of running.
Yeah.
But we inserted differently this time,
Mhm.
and I did not bring the necessary equipment. I ended up tearing myself up. I ate all the meat off my hands.
Ugh.
I lost a bunch of equipment, but I fell on top of him
Ugh.
coming out of the helicopter. Basically, just jumped out because I didn't have the equipment. So we're about 9 to 12 feet up
Ooh.
when I did this. So it wasn't that far, but far enough to break bones if I landed on you.
Yeah.
I landed dead on him. He's fine. He was fine.
Wow.
We take off and we start tumbling down this mountain because it's
Ugh.
like a peak and there's just enough space to put people on.
Yeah.
And there's people behind me and like a bunch more people coming.
Oh, right.
So I start doing my job and I take off after the guy. Baggie's with me. I put him on his long lead, or tried to anyway. I got half of it on. He's still hooked to my hip lead, and we just go tumbling,
Oh.
and hand over foot, gone. And we get down to a stopping point. I realize I've lost everything. I'm bloody, just being cut up from all. It's really, really sharp rock mountains,
Yeah.
And Baggie's fine, just shakes it off, and he's looking at me like, all right, what are we doing? I'm like, you're made of rubber. He's jumped off of buildings. I mean, I didn't tell him to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I'm calling him to me, and turns out he's on a roof and he jumps off.
Oh my gosh.
Funny story with dogs. I mean, it may not be with all, but I'm pretty sure it is. At least with Belgian Malinois, they outside of 6 feet, it just looks like 6 feet.
Oh.
That's why you can jump out of airplanes with them or whatever. It doesn't. They don't know the difference.
Wow.
Right.
So if he's afraid of heights, you could be 6 feet up or 100 feet up. He's still going to be afraid. So that it doesn't sound as bad as it was
Yeah.
when he jumped.
Yeah.
But when he smacked the ground, it definitely sounded horrible. And I go up to him again, just shakes it off.
Oh my gosh.
Telling
Wow.
you're made of rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's indestructible.
Yeah.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So jumping off of buildings, tumbling down mountains, are those the scariest things that Baggie has done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's been shot at before. He should have been shot rather. But that another one of those things. I swear he's made of rubber. Like bullets just bouncing off of him. But
You're like, how the heck like you were fully expecting to find a wound, and you're like, where?
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah, completely fine.
Wow.
And again, it's not one of those on purpose things. Like you never send a knife into a gunfight, but
Yeah.
sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, completely fine. You know?
Wow.
So would his job have been like when you were chasing people, it would be to go and tackle that person and hold them until you get there? Or,
Yes.
I mean, I do understand that a lot of these dogs, if you tell them to, they can really hurt somebody. We'll say that.
Yeah, just trying to keep it PG.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
I mean, he was trained to apprehend.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the way to put it.
I mean, that what speeds do you have any idea what speeds that they go?
So I like to call them like little rockets. The exact speed, I don't know,
Yeah.
but I would assume somewhere around like 30 or 40 miles an hour,
That's what I was thinking.
like topped out. It's actually really incredible to watch. If you're the type of person that can stomach bite work, or apprehension work, I should say, you get the decoy to run. He takes off, and you release the dog, and it seems like his paws or his legs are like this far off the ground, and he's just gone.
Wow.
It's hard to explain, but
Yeah.
maybe inches off the ground and
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if other people like that have fast breeds or active breeds, and
Mhm.
they throw the ball with their dog, and their dog just takes off. It's
Yeah.
like that.
Like a greyhound, I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then when they hit that person, it's like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the question I think people are probably wondering is, did you catch the guy?
That guy, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
The
And
tumbling
Baggie
down
didn't
the
get hurt.
mountain. Yeah, it was a win-win.
Yep.
Awesome.
Well, is there
Good
anything
time.
else that you'd like to talk about with respect to, working dogs, this breed, military working dogs, anything we should know?
So some people have asked me, they've had the opportunity to have a working dog retired to them, or they express the interest in that, having like a military dog retired out to them. Even if you're a handler now and you're thinking about it, take it from a handler. Make sure that your lifestyle fits it. Make sure, because it's like adopting a kid. You have to make sure that you have enough space in your home for it. Your family, like if you have a kid with a disability, may not be a good idea. Sarah originally
Oops.
didn't have a really bad allergy to dogs. That's but she gets over it, so it's okay. I'm an active person, and even still, I'm not active enough for a Malinois. I still have to have a treadmill. Not so much anymore now, but I did.
Yeah.
So there are things that you have to take into account. And if you are not a handler, you don't have that kind of training, and you're thinking, man, this would be a great dog to have. It sounds really awesome. I would suggest babysitting one, and then deciding whether or not you like running ultra marathons, and whether or not you really want to get your dog into Schutzen or something. Like if you like dog sports and it's a hobby that you can do with him every day, then to compete with, sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
As long as your family life fits it, great. But I'm dead serious about the ultra marathon part.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know just hearing about it that would not be the right breed for us. And, not enough space,
Sounds like
not active enough.
Sounds like it would tire out David Goggins is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like,
So
this dog's killing me.
If you're David Goggins, this is a good dog breed.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point to bring that up, because I think a lot of us, have that oh, I can take care of a dog that's retired from police work or military work. And the reality of it is, no, you probably can't, unless you're,
Yeah.
like you said, ultra marathons, you've got the lifestyle, you've got acreage.
The training
Yeah.
too.
The training. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if that dog has a weird quirk, you have to be able to identify it. The last thing you want, like most of the time when kids get bit or when people get bit by dogs, it's a misunderstanding between the two.
Mm-hmm.
They think that people or dogs communicate the same way that people do, and that's not the case.
Yep.
So, that's a big thing you have to think about too.
Yeah, I was bit on Thanksgiving by my parents' dog, and I was trying to make him comfortable on the sofa, and I picked him up, and he bit me, and I was like, what the heck? And I surmised that they had, because I was petting him and stuff. It's not like I woke him up, but they had fed him a lot of table scraps, much to my dismay. And I think his stomach, I think he was uncomfortable, he had tummy ache, and then I picked him up, and he's like, don't, that hurts. And so I knew it was my fault, but not everyone is going to go, oh, that's your fault. They're going to blame the dog for,
They're going to think so, especially if it's your kid that gets bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Automatically they're going to take their kid's side, and it's not their fault.
Yeah. And I should say this was a Yorkie. This is not even like a, everyone wants to say, oh, it must have been a pit bull. No, it was a Yorkie. But, it's to that point, all dogs are different, I don't think our dogs, gosh, if we picked our dogs up, never, even if they were hurt, would they bite us. But it's just personality, it's just the personality of the dog is a lot to do with it. Like you said,
The level of bonding too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. I really think it's fascinating, the bond that you guys have. And, I really can picture Baggie looking at you across the field and saying, what did I do? What did I do?
I mean, yeah. What a cool story. Yeah. It's an incredible cool story because Baggie almost wasn't yours. And then that one thing, and you being persistent and saying, I want my dog back. And now look, 13 years, or I guess it's 10 years now if he was 3 years old, but 10 years you guys been together, and he's laying at your feet right now. So that's kind of cool.
It was meant to be.
Yep. It's a weird lifetime love story thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be a Hallmark Christmas movie, won't it?
Yeah, there you go.
Baggie moves back to his old hometown. Starts a florist.
He's a florist. The Christmas parade is coming.
Well, David, it was awesome. Thanks for sharing some great stories and talking about this wonderful breed. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think David and Baggie might just be the two coolest dudes out there.
We joked a little bit in there about a movie. I think it's a movie. I think it reminds me of a movie. How amazing a story.
It's just the bond that they had from the beginning is just, I think we all bond with our dogs, but to see, a dog and his trainer have that bond and the work that they did together, if anyone questions dogs and their ability to feel, I mean, I think David made it. And David's not some super sensitive guy, I mean, the fact that David's like, I looked at him, he looked at me, we locked eyes, I mean, that's saying a lot. So just a great story. We should say that David is family to us. And so we've been able to interact with him and Baggie and their family, and they are just studs.
Yeah. And if there's a beef jerky company out there that wants to sponsor us, we'll be more. No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, if there's a beef jerky company that wants to sponsor Baggie,
I'm sure he would appreciate it.
He would probably do some great stuff for beef jerky or apples.
Yeah. So, staple of life. Anyway, I thought it was fantastic. I thought there were some funny stories in there and some harrowing stories in there, and I think it's just an awesome story that these two are still together today, 10 years after they first met.
I know. It really is a love story. And I know that they care so much about each other. And just, the fact that not to be rude, but like if you left for a while, I would still eat. I wouldn't stop eating. and Baggie stopped eating when he was taken away from David. So, I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Well, anyway.
Would you stop eating if I left?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Does he look like he misses a meal? Come on.
Anyway.
So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you have experience with a working dog, whether it be a Belgian Malinois or other working dog, we would love your comments. And if you have another breed of working dog that you want to talk about, please drop us a line, dognerdshow@gmail.com, or comment below. We know there's probably some other folks. Maybe it's a Belgian Tervuren, I think is another one, a cousin to this breed. We would love to hear all about your dog. So let us know.
Yeah. Please subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And we look forward to hearing your comments, and we try to respond. So please drop.
We respond.
Yeah. Please, please drop that, that comment down below, and we'll respond to it. And just, it's real easy if you just hit that subscribe button. It's somewhere right around in here. It says subscribe on it. Just hit that. And then
and the little bell, the cute little bell, that will give you a notification every time we have a new episode.
Exactly.
So that's for all of our YouTube viewers, for everyone on the podcast. We see you. We love you. Thank you for tuning in with every episode. We hope you're enjoying it, and let us know what you want to see more of.
Awesome. Well, until next time, folks. Bye.
Bye.
All right.